Today, I'm giving you my 3 keys to booking more work for your photography business in your local area. Welcome to the first video that I have shot on the Nikon Z6 II production model, 14 to 24 2.8 lens. And I actually have this little piece of plastic that has a little mirror on it. It's super overpriced for what it is, but it gives me at least a piece of a front-facing screen. I kind of have to move around like this to be able to see all the corners, but not so bad. Front-facing screen. Don't have to use the Atomos recorder, which is fine if you're in an environment like this, but if you're running gun style out in the field, it's not so fun to just always be using an external screen. As you saw in the intro, it is the first snow day of the year. Things are about to get a lot colder here, and coming up next week, we're actually going to the mountains, and we'll be doing a number of videos, hopefully with the new Nikon Z6 II. We're gonna do a whole series. It's not quite going to be the Around the World series that we did with them, but it'll be a piece of it. I think we're gonna call it like a season 1.5 just to create a short film, because travel really isn't that safe and possible yet, unfortunately. Today though, we are talking about 3 keys to booking local jobs. So this is kind of piggybacking off yesterday's video. So yesterday we went out to a local business and we actually did all the photography for them. And the big question I think on a lot of people's minds is, how do you actually get people to pay money for this? And how do you get people to pay you rather than just some super inexpensive photographer or a staff member just using their iPhone? So I'm here today to talk a little bit more about that and kind of my approach. And it's a much longer game. It's not just like a get rich quick style scheme. So if you're looking for that, this isn't the spot for it. But what this will do is it will build you a business over the long term that will continue to be successful. And basically all the hours that you're investing now into your business, if you're doing them smart, you will continue to see the rewards for those for years and years and years. So that's kind of what all of this is based off of. The 3 keys, or at least 3 of the keys, there are obviously a number of permutations and other ways that you can make this work. In my experience and from what I've seen, as well as my personal experience into the photography industry, these are the keys that I have found to be the easiest to implement, and also ones that you can actually put words on. Because some things, like for instance, if you have that cool factor going for you, you will book work, especially in the wedding market. But how do you actively generate cool factor? I don't know if you do really. It starts to feel really forced. So I'm going to give you actual tips that you can hopefully implement, and you can start implementing now, and tips that you can continue doing over time. And the 3 keys that I would like to speak to you briefly about here: number 1, generating authority; number 2, social proof; and number 3, scarcity. These are all things that you can build towards, and you can build relevance, and you can build these out rather than just having some non-tangibles. That all of these are things that you can actively be doing. They are also in no particular order, and they all work together very, very well. So key number 1, generating authority. I started doing this a long time ago when I was in music and band photography, that I would be photographing bands, and I would kind of, every week I would get to photograph a new unique opportunity, and that would maybe turn into an actual proper concert, and maybe that would turn into actually being allowed in the backstage area to get some documentary style photos. And all I did to build that was just selecting the correct bands, and the bands that I knew were kind of the most important of that era. And if I could get them in front of my camera, if I could get them to agree to do a session or let me come to their concert and let them post the photos, at the time it was MySpace, if I could get that credibility, if I could get that digital tear sheet, I knew that I could bring that to slightly larger bands and then slightly larger bands. So that is, at least speaking to the concert side of things. How do you do that in business? I think the exact same principles apply, that if you can get in the door with one business that you really do want to shoot, that you start generating that portfolio, you can bring that digital, like how they use those images, how they use that promotional video you build for them, whatever content you're creating, you can bring that and package that up into kind of a 1-page document and head to somebody else. Don't head to their direct competitor, or you're going to kind of burn that relationship. But if you head to somebody else that's in a slightly different industry, that's a complete non-compete or a partial non-compete, that you're going to find yourself getting in the door of that business a lot faster. It's all about just hitting that first domino. So you have to find that one business. Maybe you have access to them, maybe your cousin owns it, or your friend works there, or maybe you actually work there. I shot a lot of images. I used to work at an Outback Steakhouse for like 8 years, I think 8 or 9 years. And I shot a lot of stock photography of restaurants in that space. Had I known to just kind of generate a portfolio and to create that one sheet of like, hey, I can come into your business, here's what I can generate very quickly, very low impact to you, very efficiently, and very easy on your staff, and I don't even need you there, I can just go and do it. If I was able to do that, especially working for a chain, if I could have packaged something together with Outback Steakhouse, I could have brought that to any number of chains around the local area. And now not only am I looking at kind of that one-off restaurant job, I'm now looking at doing photography for an entire chain. That said, they do have teams, or at least they usually have a commercial shooter that's associated with them that shoots all their product, because their demands and needs are a lot more elevated than a local shop. But that is an opportunity. There's no real rules in this photography game. And that's why I personally find it to be a lot of fun, that you get to kind of create and do whatever you want to do, whatever interests you. So start with that first piece and just keep building from there. To get back to the topic of generating authority, I think it is important to be very involved in your local community as the photographer that a lot of people think of. I think that there are ways to do this that don't just put you in the place of the photographer that does everything for free, because that's definitely not where you race to the bottom, everybody loses. What you want to do is you want to be involved with the right causes, the right people that are going to actually introduce you to the jobs that will actually pay you proper money in the future. So what this means, at least drawing on my personal experience and what we did, we built out a documentary about local startups in the area here, and it was at the beginning a way for me to learn how to do video. I didn't know anything about video, thought it'd be fun to do a local short documentary at the time project, and quickly I realized that there are a lot of people in this community that really do want to elevate the community to a higher standard. I suspect that you will find that wherever you are in the world, that people locally are very passionate about their local area. That means that they're happy to share anything, they're happy to support anything that you might create that is for the good of the community. Obviously don't have this as just like a business that you want to create with like this layer of kind of like it's for the community on top, because people will see through that and you'll develop a terrible reputation. But if you are genuinely creating something that you believe that should exist in your local community that really does good things for your local area, you will find that you attract a number of cheerleaders pretty quickly to your camp. And the other benefit is that, at least in our community here, and I feel like this goes with other communities as well, that most of the people that become those cheerleaders, they are people that are the CEOs of corporations, because if they're involved with a cause, if they're involved with a higher level cause, and they see you trying to help out within that, they're going to do everything that they can to keep you within that niche and to keep you happy creating within that, which means that you're likely going to be working for a lot of their businesses, and they're going to introduce you to their friends, and it just kind of spirals on from there. So finding that first niche that you want to create within and really becoming part of the community. You can also do this in a few different ways, but I would recommend to not just try to do 50 things at once, because you're just going to burn yourself out. So focus on the 2 things that you're the most passionate about, or the one thing maybe in the beginning that you're the most passionate about, and just begin growing from that space, but knowing that you do want to become more involved in your community. Generating authority, there's also some other tangibles that you can do. You can start a local podcast, you can start a local business podcast. If you have a camera, you can start a local video show. You can do a portrait series of different shop owners in your local area and feature them. And especially times like this, it's very nice to have that additional support at no cost. And if you go in, you do a portrait session of, like, say, our buddy Alnor that owns the clothing shop over there. If I went in, I did like a full write-up on him. One, I'm probably going to, like, that Instagram post, if I write a nice little piece for him, is probably gonna do very, very well. It's probably gonna get shared a lot. Posting that on Facebook is going to get shared even more than that. And then what that's going to mean that you can now shop this around to local magazines, or you can bring this to your local newspaper. And you might think that newspapers are dead, but anytime that we've ended up on the front page of a newspaper, we hear about it quite a lot from a bunch of different people that are not normally people that communicate with us. So know that even though you think a section of media might be dead, like the daytime news here, that when you're on it, you will open yourself up to a whole new market. And all you really need is that one single person watching, or that one single person to come across that project in order to book you work in the future. And maybe something worth mentioning now, earlier, I guess last week, I released a course that's essentially on a subscription style business for your photography company, which means that you have a certain number of businesses all signed up, and every single month you go to the same spots and you create work for them. If you're a member, you get access to that entire course right now. There's also a video that I posted on YouTube a couple of days ago now that goes to one of these shoots and talks you through kind of my mindset and my perspective on how I get those jobs done, and how I actually make them more valuable than just taking photos. The idea is basically that now all of a sudden you get to go to the same businesses every single month. You get that paycheck, you get to release a little bit of anxiety as just like we're gig economy shooters usually, that we're going out, we shoot an event, and maybe we'll get a referral for that event next year, or we'll photograph a wedding, and maybe if we're lucky, one of the bridesmaids will book us 2 years from now. But this is all about just generating your own money, and also generating money that will hopefully relieve any anxiety that you have, that now you have a paycheck. The last video is also something that seems pretty wild, but is way more achievable than I think a lot of people think. And when you start thinking of it from the perspective of business, you start to understand how easily achievable it is. And that video is how to make an additional $10,000 per month based on this system, this strategy. I think it's something that I'm very excited to see a few people implement, and I will continue to report back with how people are doing in this. But I definitely think it's something that's valuable and worthwhile. So if you're a member, head over there, watch that right now. If you're not yet a member, you can sign up and you get access to that course as well as every other course that's on the website. But I think it's a pretty cool thing that you should probably be doing right now if you're interested in generating money for your photography business. To move to the second key, into social proof, this is something that's very important, simply because in the digital age, people want to know that you exist. I think that a lot of us are like, oh, like if you have like Instagram follower accounts don't matter. And in reality, they unfortunately do. So I would spend some time, at least like you can advertise $5, $10 a day just to get in the face of somebody scrolling through their feed, a few more people per day that might follow you. Even if like you end up spending 30, 50, 60 cents to gain an additional follower, if you're able to scale that to something that kind of makes sense for your business, I think it's important to have at least some sort of base level following. That number is completely dependent on what everyone else kind of in your local market that might be considered a competitor would have. But I would say anywhere from like 3,000 to 5,000 followers, if you can aim for that, which is a totally achievable goal, especially with Reels. If you're not on Reels yet, basically you post one and it will outperform anything that it will outperform probably everything that you've ever posted on Instagram just with one Reel post. So Instagram is heavily pushing those out. So now is potentially maybe the last golden opportunity, at least on Instagram. I'm mentioning Instagram and Facebook specifically because they are the businesses that other local businesses actually pay attention to, that's something that is more in their wheelhouse. If you're on TikTok, that's great. If you're creating on other platforms, that's awesome. But I think the most understood, at least in business and when it comes to the scope of this video, which is booking local work, I think Instagram and Facebook are the most understood. They're the most integrated with business. So I would personally focus on building my Instagram followers from something wherever you're at now, even up to 3,000 followers, I feel like is a totally great number to have that does give you that social proof. And then once you find it what's working, like Reels, you'll probably grow beyond that. And once you start generating momentum, things really start to happen for you locally, both in business as well as just gaining new traction and having an audience. Another social proof thing is who you're involved with publicly as well. So if you are out there and you're doing those business portraits of everybody in your city, all of a sudden you have a very professional business focused Instagram presence or Facebook presence as well. So by photographing those people, you're basically, I think another thing kind of happens with that as well, that if you have the social proof of working with all of these people, one, that's going to look amazing to everyone else looking at your portfolio. It's like, oh wow, you photographed this person, and if you did a portrait session with the mayor, that's really cool. Did you get paid for that portrait session? No, you probably went out and you put this all together. This was something that was personally interesting to you, and you reached out to the mayor and she was like, yeah, I'd love to sit down for a portrait session with you. It looks like you're doing some great things in the community. And with all of that momentum, you can now elevate yourself to another level where you can now reach out to other mayors. Maybe mayors is a bad example, but if you find that one business leader that's happy to introduce you to other friends, you really do unlock a lot of unique and interesting opportunities that you would not have discovered otherwise, or just by cold emailing. That you will find a lot of people just won't respond, or you can't even get to the right inbox, or you'll get to like their third tier personal assistant rather than actually getting to them. When you start actually doing work with the kind of business leaders and the community leaders within your local area, all of a sudden they are very happy to introduce you to other business leaders and local leaders around the world. Social proof also comes down to reviews and sharing on a low level. So if you've done a lot of photo projects with people, ask them for a review, for a testimonial. If they know you're just getting into the industry and that's why they got such an awesome rate, be like, hey, like happy to do this work for much less money than I probably should, but I really do need a testimonial. Or if you can get a video testimonial, just like a little Instagram story style thing, and you can make a story highlight with all of those testimonials, with all those reviews, you can put them on your website. And when they link back to local businesses and they link back to actual people that are known within the community, those testimonials go next level. That they're not just these unknowns that have a photo of, oh cool, it's a bride and groom, they say nice things about Taylor. Now all of a sudden it's a local business leader that's like, hey, loved working with Taylor, in and out in like 10 minutes, like headshot, perfect, love what he's doing for the community. Something like that is a lot more valuable than just kind of unknown people within your community. So focus on finding those people that you find interesting and that are doing cool things for your local area. And if you can attach yourself to that in some way and you can elevate what they are doing and you can make it easier, or you can make it less expensive, or you can bring them projects that they would not have even thought of, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be involved in a lot of things that you never would have thought of. To touch on the lower level, I think, of the social proof side of things, you can always boost your Facebook posts. If you post something and you're getting very limited interaction because the Facebook algorithm is basically like, hey, pay money if you want people to see your stuff. So pay a little bit of money, $10 to get in front of some people that maybe you wouldn't have, or even to get back in front of the people that have liked your page. The main benefit there is that now when somebody scrolls down your Instagram page, every photo maybe has like 100, 200 likes. It looks a lot better than having like one that kind of blew up and then one that has absolutely zero interaction. So you want it to be nice and cohesive across the board. Same with Instagram too, that you can boost posts in there and spend a couple dollars. The main benefit obviously is that you're getting in touch with new people that you have not met yet, or maybe that you have met and that they're just not following you on Instagram. So it's an investment, I would almost call it, that you're investing in the social proof section of your business to build an audience, to one, be able to leverage in times that you want to run like a sale. If you're a commercial photographer and you want to do family sessions for one day a year, actually this leads into our next point. So scarcity. So scarcity is essentially just not being available all the time, not being the person that's like, hey, I have 150 wedding dates available for next year. You want to have a limited number of things. Speaking specifically to the course that I released a couple of days ago, that the way that I run it, it's basically an ongoing social media branding content creation course. So you just go out to the same local businesses every single month and you generate new content for them, and you get paid and you get a paycheck every single month, which is really, really nice. The way that I did that was that I really capped it hard cap, because one, I didn't want my entire business to become this, but if you're capping it at like something like 10 sessions available, like 10 monthly slots, and that's it, the people are going to be a lot more likely to jump on that and to actually value their spot within that. And if you can build a waiting list from that, it means that you can open up for future work whenever you want, and that you'll have people that are actually willing to pay you money. When it comes to commercial sessions, you can offer introductory rates. You can offer what I would maybe call like a recovery rate. I feel like every business is in some form of recovery, maybe with the exception of like Amazon and Uber Eats, but everyone else is in some level of recovery right now. So if you can create a rate, if you can create a package that really shows that like, hey, I understand where you're at, I'm at there too, and let's fix this together. If you can create something like that and you can open it to a limited number of people, or you can only open it to the people that you reach out to. I would say if you're cold emailing people like this, make it people that actually know who you are or have had contact with you. If you're cold emailing being like, hey, I'm only offering this to select individuals, and it's a cold email and they don't know you. The other thing, I guess, like to go to the global building authority, is that the more known you are in your local area and the more that you're out there creating work, the easier it is to cold email people. One, when you do send out that email, potentially they've already seen your name around town. The other potential is that when they just go to your Instagram, they go to your Facebook page, whatever they choose, they will see that their friends, or they will see that other local leaders are involved with you, and that gives, again, social proof, that gives authority. It all kind of works together here. So by opening up a number of slots, a very limited number, this works for family sessions, this works for mini sessions, and it's like, hey, we're doing 25 shoots on this one day or this one weekend only. Maybe 25 is too heavy to do in a day. But if you're like, hey, 25 shoots available Saturday, Sunday these days, please book your slot. If people can see that the calendar is booking up, they're going to be a lot more likely to book you. Same goes for weddings, that if you are announcing that like, hey, you only have 10 dates left of this year, or this coming year, 2021, if you only have 10 days left in this upcoming year, there's a pretty good chance that people are going to be a little bit more inspired to book with you because they see that you are an in-demand photographer. So yeah, those are the 3 keys in my opinion. Obviously more keys, more ways to do everything, but I think these all have tangible ways to go about building credibility within each of them. They all work together very well, that when you're generating that just general authority, you're also usually within that generating social proof because you're creating content, you're working with people, you're creating things for your local community to talk about. And also when you're doing your commercial work, figure out a way to make it good for the community. That's the way that people are going to share it. That if you're just out there like, hey, this shop has like cool clothes, you should share this, no one's going to share it. But if you show what they've done for the community, how they've built their business, how they've been involved in the uptown or downtown BIA for quite some time, and if you give people a reason to share things, that your content organically gets out there a heck of a lot more. And then by just having, well, you're one human, so by having limited availability, there's a pretty good chance that you are going to show that you are an in-demand photographer and people will actually 100% want to be booking you. That is all for today. I hope that the first Z6 II experience was very good. I am officially starting, I think, my first employee today. So I have 1 employee now, not full-time, but part-time. And you might meet her sometime. Her name is Claudia. She's very nice. Now I'm going to head back into the Arctic wilderness here, Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. Thanks for watching. And if you're interested in getting the course that goes more behind the scenes and actually gives you my cold emails and everything, and how I reach out to different brands and different companies locally to generate that ongoing subscription style work, which means that like you get a paycheck every single month, that anxiety a lot less. Pricing based on that is kind of based on your local area. I've always said it that the market is always correct, or I think Gary Vee maybe said that originally and I just stole it from him, that the market is always right. And if you're trying to do something that goes against the market and you're not finding success, it's because the market simply is just resisting that and they don't want it. So find a fit that your photography can fit into by starting local and by building a good local audience and just authority locally. You will find success not only in the short term, but also in the long term for the rest of your life. And not only will you find it in business and making money, but you'll also create a lot of relationships that are just really, really great to have. And I've found, at least in my experience with it, that usually successful people, they want to hang out with other successful people, and that for the most part generates even more incoming revenue, as well as just people that you can bounce ideas off when you're stressed out, or maybe you're hiring your first employee and you're like, I don't know how to do this, how do I go about this? And if you know somebody that's already been down that path, you can ask them for advice. And same goes that if you see somebody coming up that's maybe they're making amazing short films or they're creating amazing art, and you can be a little bit of a guide if they ever need it. Don't just like be like, hey, here's what you should be doing. But if you can be that guide whenever they need it, I feel like it's just like a cool thing for just a general life experience. So I think by doing this, you'll find value just beyond financial freedom and winnings. So yeah, that's all for today. I don't ever know how to end these videos, so I'll just sit here and point at things. You should click on this one. If you haven't seen it, it's very long. I keep promoting this video because the watch time on it is like crazy, so YouTube wants to show it to more people. YouTube's a tricky algorithm.